Yeah, and I really want to highlight that Forge on Akali, it's one of his better picks, or certainly from the eye test, like it's one of the picks that I like to see Forge on. And I distinctly remember a game where it was Forge on Akali, ZDZ on the Camille, and they just did this insane dive duo system where they were just taking over the game. I want to see more of that kind of thing. Obviously the Camille is banned, but perhaps another similar style of champion. It's going to be the Zhao locked in here. As top esports already have their full bottom lane here by the looks of things, Rogue Warriors opting towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, and I like the Leona pick. It's a good matchup in the Nautilus, and also, you know, going down that aggression line, you've been faced up with the Ziggs. You cannot just sort of sit back at max range. You're going to get hammered. So having something that can challenge the Ziggs, get on top of him, is pretty important, and the Leona makes sense there. Top esports, you know, I think taking a jungler here makes a lot of sense if you want something in this rotation, but it looks like they might be committing to a bit of poke here with the Jayce. This is a flex as well to just keep their options available.
Yeah, and let's be honest, this is a 369 pick, but they don't have 369. QingTian, not a player that I think is particularly known for things like his Jayce. It's like, not, I'm sure that he can play the Jayce. I'm sure he's perfectly capable. This guy's a very talented player. But Jayce is known for lane dominance. QingTian, not really the player that's known for that. And we have yet to see his Jayce here in the LPL. So I'm curious if that does go up topside. We've seen Knight play Jayce before, but Jayce mid, not exactly a standard pick right now. Perhaps that could be something crazy. Wukong banned away, and a Lucian as well. But that Wukong ban makes me think the Jayce is going top.
Yeah, it kind of gives me that impression, especially I think Rogue Warriors sense that it might be as well with that Lucian ban away. See what else they want to bring out. Potentially could be looking to sort of ban away counters to the Akali. It feels like they're not really targeting the jungle pool at all. Kind of happy leaving that open. And I think as well with the Ziggs, sometimes you'd see like a Diana ban to limit the AP options. With the Ziggs, you're not really as concerned about that. They're going to have the AP profile regardless of what they go. So really depends whether they want to sort of target the jungle here or the mid lane. Even something like LeBlanc could be something that has a really good matchup with the Akali, guaranteeing 2 winning lanes into it, but they actually go for the Olaf, something which we've seen picked up a fair amount into the Jhin Zhao, just because it can kind of go toe-to-toe with him in melee range.
So I think we're going to see Volibear here. Oh, Sejuani. Okay, I like it. Karsa going with these tanky engaged junglers. We saw Zach a couple of days ago. Like, I like this.
It's not a bear, but it's a boar, so it's pretty close in those regards.
They're both cold.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, really works well with sort of melee laners, so could end up seeing, you know, depending on where that Jayce goes, the alternative lane still picking up a melee champion to proc that passive. And for Rogue Warriors, I feel like Varus is open available. I would kind of be leaning towards that one to kind of match from a distance, but actually going for the Jhin in this situation, I guess does have the tools to follow up on that engage from a distance, but may still struggle really to get in range against that poke, and might be very reliant on sort of his W and his ult to have an impact. And now it's that final pick. We'll kind of get to see where the Akali goes. For the most part, they could just go for a flex, something like the Gwen, again, really strong, and kind of solidifies that heavy sort of backline threat on this team composition. A lot of champions that are just frustrating to play against, hard to target. Between the Gwen, the Jhin Zhao, and the Akali, all three of them have essentially abilities that make it hard to deal with. And now for top esports,
wanted to say that. I wanted to say the Yone before the champ select comes on through, saying maybe Knight goes to the Yone, but it's actually a Gangplank, so it is probably Knight taking Jayce mid, unless that's a Gangplank mid. I don't know what's going on in this draft, but I am loving it. Is Knight seriously taking Gangplank into the mid lane live in the LPL? What a draft we get to see here, Aux.
They can still swap, so we'll wait and see a little bit longer if they are going to keep it there. But, you know, it can technically go mid lane. It should just be able to harass the Akali down in that situation. And obviously the ult in tandem with the Ziggs, very threatening. I don't think you can actually play Jhin here and press R. It's actually kind of weird, actually, now that I think about it. They picked Jhin into Ziggs, and now there's the Gangplank as well. Picture this, Joe, right? Everyone in the enemy team's low HP. You're like, you know what? I'm going to pop my ultimate. Suddenly you look up in the sky and you see a giant bomb just flying towards you as cannons start firing in the distance. You're not channeling that ult anymore, I can tell you that much.
So I do wonder, when you look in the sky, do you see a flying ship that's firing the cannons, or are the cannons being fired from the ocean somewhere with insane precision accuracy? Like, because it's an impressive feat that they can get it in such a tight radius so consistently.
I think it's got to be the precision accuracy, right? I don't think Gangplank's ship is flying, you know. I mean, at least
I'm just trying to figure out how they can logistically make that happen so impressively. Anyway, moving on. We've got a Gangplank in the mid lane, ladies and gentlemen. Knight, of all players, bringing a Gangplank out. They needed an AD mid laner, and boy, was Knight happy to step up and show us what he's got. Forge on the Akali. He's going to have his work cut out in this lane. And, you know, Betty, a man after my own heart. When things get stressful, he looks towards some Jhin. This time it's League of Legends based, but we've all been there, man. Gwen versus Jayce in the top side as well. And I feel like this is an opportunity. We were talking about QingTian a little bit already. Is JackeyLove taking a bit of damage? He hasn't had to flash, though. QingTian, not a player known for lane dominance in the top side, but he does have a good matchup here against the Gwen.
Yeah, I think the thing is we have two, I guess, pseudo-range champions, which is kind of cool because both the Gangplank and the Jayce work well with the Sejuani proc and the passive, but they also have that range to harass that they can kind of use to find the lane advantage. Mid lane in particular, you're going to see Knight really harassing Forge down. Top lane, it's a little bit more precarious. At level 1, the Gwen can just dash forward, and with that attack speed and range buff, can just out-trade you, so still has to be a bit cautious. And I expect to see Xiaohao, you know, he's going to look towards the path towards the top lane and kind of rely on that pressure from the Gwen he's relying on to put him in a good situation. But vice versa, karsa also going up. He's leaning on that mid priority to make sure he can secure camps. And we did see a ward on those Raptors being placed down. Oh, bit of a trade in the bot lane, but that'll just be a little bit. But yeah, ward on the Raptors from Rogue Warriors on a top esports. You have a Zhao into a Sejuani. I would like to see this capitalized on. Maybe not on the first clear, but on the second spawning.
Oh, hang on. QiuQiu is in real trouble. He has to flash away early on in this lane. Betty and Chocho have consistently been super aggressive in the 2v2, and they're proving it once again against top esports.
Yeah, and this is the thing with the Ziggs is you can't really do anything level 1, right? You throw out a bomb, you're waiting you know, quite a while before the next one's available when you've only got 1 point in it. And in that meantime, Betty can, you know, unload a bunch of auto attacks at you and just out-trade you. You have to be more respectful, especially as it is Leona into Nautilus. It's a winning matchup for the Leona, and you can consistently threaten. I think this is just a bit disrespectful for the bot lane of top esports, but definitely an advantage found for Rogue Warriors.
So I want to ask you, Aux, about this mid lane matchup, because I think most of the viewers at home, that's what they're going to be looking at, right? We've got a Gangplank in the mid lane against the Akali. Now, Gangplank in the top lane, usually it's about trying to get your grass procs, waiting for the late game, getting a few items, and then doing these big barrels and team fights. Is it the same story for the mid game, or do we have a little bit more early game power there?
I mean, it's going to be similar in terms of what you try hoping to achieve in sort of the mid to late game, but the early power is huge, and you wouldn't normally see this if it was like, you know, if it was a Gangplank into a mage matchup. Something like a Rise would be able to handle this matchup really well. But into an Akali, it's brutal. I mean, you can look at how it's going already. You keep the grass backed on the wave. You just harass the Akali with parlays, and there's not much Forge can do till level 6 is hit. And at level 6, you obviously have the potential for kill pressure, but until that point, you are in a pretty rough spot. And actually, we saw, so Xiaohao sort of pathed up topside and then looped back to go for that bot scuttle. ZWuJi not really having a good time in this lane, and we talked a little bit about that level 1, but
Cage on the top side. QiuQiu's in trouble here as the ignite is burning down onto him, but Betty
flash.
maybe a step too far. Xiaohao hanging in the wings, though. If top esports aren't careful, they could be in trouble. Chocho using both summoners there, though.
Yeah, ends up getting satcheled in a little bit too deep and get put in an uncomfortable position. ZWuJi, obviously the level 1 of Gwen is strong, but after that, you're kind of in a rough spot, and I think he was pretty respectful of QingTian playing safe, but look at this wave. It's in such a bad spot. It is a Ziggs, probably one of the only champions who can continue to farm from this distance, but if you walk up on that wave, you're doomed. You can see karsa is beelining straight towards the bot lane, but it may end up being too late. Betty will block the bomb, denying that cannon minion. And it's kind of like, you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't.
Yeah, and look, top esports knew Xiaohao was there. we see this from Xiaohao every single game. You could see the positioning from top esports. They knew that something was up. They knew that they couldn't push too aggressively. Xiaohao finally shows and they back away. ZDZ is in big trouble in the top side as QingTian is really battering him in this laning phase. The CS difference, not that significant, but ZDZ has been stuck underneath his tower all lane long and a little bit more health gone. He'll have to base without a TP.
Yeah, I mean, these solo laners for Rogue Warriors are just having a really rough time. And he just TP'd back up and gets chunked out almost instantly. Definitely feeling rough right now for ZDZ, and Forge in the mid lane kind of getting battered a bit. He's doing an okay job staying in farm, I'll give him that. And he should be able to TP back in on the back of this and be in an okay spot. But Knight definitely showing the strength of this Gangplank pick in that matchup. And now with the Sheen, that harass does cut even more so.
Yeah, and not only getting the Sheen procs that do transfer to your barrel damage, but on top of that, being able to just keep on blasting your Q off, getting your grasp procs onto this Akali going as well, building up the health for later on. Gangplank, one of these champions that scales exceptionally well. And I think that's a point that we need to talk about next is the scaling options here for top esports, because when you think about this team, they love to play late game. They're more than happy to play a slow game of League of Legends, and they have plenty of options for that with this kind of composition.
Yeah, I feel like both teams are strong scaling options. I do really like, obviously, the Gangplank, the Ziggs, Jayce, and the Sejuani, all really powerful. But things like the Gwen and the Akali, it can't be understated how effective these champs can be in the later stages. It kind of will come down to execution of the team fights and how they're played. But I do think if either team gets a lead, the other team can't exactly just sit back and be like, it's fine, we'll look to fight in 10-15 minutes, because you won't get that opportunity where you're just going to have, hit a scaling point and be like, we're fine now.
Certainly doesn't feel that way. I think it's often the case that people look at compositions and scaling just in a vacuum, and it's almost always incorrect to do that, right? But when you look at this composition from top esports, and you just try and picture how a Baron dance happens in these games. I'm going to come back to the imaginary Baron dance, though, because Xiaohao is invading onto the blue buff here. JackeyLove and Yanja wanting to contest, wanting to say something about it. It's not going to happen, though. Karsa accepts that his blue buff is gone. Xiaohao, is he willing to start a Drake here? I'd imagine not, because Karsa is on the bottom half of the map right now and is moving on over.
Yeah, I think just taking that window, punishing the blue, like to say it, but doesn't feel confident enough to go for that dragon. I think part of that is just the fact that Knight is ready and in position to move. Comes in.
Pick onto Betty. Massive damage already. A bomb going through. There's the flash from Betty to keep him alive, but Chocho left up the creek without a paddle. That's going to be a kill for JackeyLove. First blood for top esports as the observer falls off of his chair. I hope he's okay. But Betty just about surviving.
Yeah, a lot of value from that flash from Betty, but I think you see how difficult it is to position on this carry when you're up against, a Ziggs and a Gangplank.
Oh, hang on. QingTian having to bat him away, but ZDZ still has the needlework. One more ult going through, finishes the kill, and 2 games in a row, ZDZ finds the solo kill.
And on Gwen, of all champions, it's definitely not going to get easier as the game goes on. Champion a little bit broken, I would say. And now with the pressure achieved on the top side, Rogue Warriors confident to go for this Herald. No TP on QingTian. I don't think any response is going to come through.
Yeah, nothing to happen here from top esports as Rogue Warriors once again finding opportunities. Now they lost the fight in the bottom side of the map. Xiaohao answering with a Herald, a solo kill out from ZDZ as well. And we got to go back to the conversation of QingTian, right? We said they're picking a lane dominant champion for him. His laning has not been the strongest part of his kit, and losing out the 1v1 again.
Yeah, and the thing is, Jayce isn't set. You can't just come into team fights 1 and 3 or whatever and expect just to be able to press R and have a ton of value. Jayce is very, very snowbally, very gold reliant, especially with the lethality items. It's like the difference between a fed Jayce and an underfed Jayce is night and day. So it's a little bit concerning already, and feel like he just kind of needs to play safe, farm up, not get pressured too hard. But obviously top esports were able to make that play happen in the bot lane, and it kind of just highlights, I think it's so difficult for Jhin to even just exist. You see the cannon barrage and the Mega Inferno Bomb come down. I think once you get Gale Force, at least you have that extra dash to use. But it makes it very hard for you to position safely and use your ultimate. And if Yanja just presses R on you, it's like you're dead.
Now he gets his heart broken there as his barrel is destroyed just before he clears our wave. A little replay of the 1v1 on the bottom right there. As you can see QingTian trying to dodge the needlework, but it was already too late for that one.
Yeah.
And I want to return. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I actually think it was a mistake because you have to like hit them again before you can use the next needlework proc. I don't think ZWuJi was actually able to use it until he got in range. So I think the dodging kind of actually hit him. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but I think maybe walking a straight line could have been the safer bet. But yeah, sorry. Hey, go on.
Mate, you're good, you're good. I want to return to the imaginary Baron dance that we talked about before, as it'll be Rogue Warriors going over to the Drake, and I don't think there's much Top Esports can do about it, because it's not just about how these two teams interact in terms of scaling in a vacuum, right? When you think about this short-range composition out from Rogue Warriors, as Yanja, mate, you just saw him take the dragon. I don't know where you thought they would be on the map right now, but the shot's coming on through. It's an easy kill for Betty, and maybe JackeyLove can get a bit of damage back, but that's all he'll get. But yeah, let's talk about the Baron dance still. I'll try and tee it up for a third time. Look at the range on Top Esports. That's the big thing I'm trying to say here. Huge amount of poke damage, and it's a close range composition from Rogue Warriors. In a long extended trade, they will never ever win.
Yeah, they need that instant engage, that instant impact, and I don't think they can ever start the Baron, right? If Top Esports exists. Cannon Barrage, Mega Infinibomb, devastating, but even outside of those, if they're on cooldown, just a poke from Top Esports will absolutely shred you. It's like, you know, if Top Esports can position and just hold up a spot, if Top Esports can, you know, let Rogue Warriors get funneled into a Dragon Pit or a Baron Pit and land poke, they are golden. Rogue Warriors want flanks, they want instant fight starting, they want things to kick off quickly before anyone gets chunked out too hard. And they have the champions to do that, right? It's very easy to find flanks on Akali, it's very slippery. Same with Gwen as well. And it's very hard to collapse on them is a critical thing. When you're thinking about flanks, it's like, if you have someone who the enemy team can just run towards and kill, it doesn't really work. But these champions are slippery. But the burden is on them. We saw that last game from Top Esports. They were the ones who had to find the flanks, and QingTian did a beautiful job of it. Rogue Warriors, when they come to team fights, should be the ones looking for those opportunities.
They're going to have to be what Top Esports were in Game 1, creative and playmaking. Jojo, there's not much space for creativity and playmaking in that situation as he just gets pummeled. This will be the first tower taken by Top Esports. Your Herald doesn't mean anything when you're against the Ziggs. This is the power of the pick. This is the reason we wanted to see it in the meta. And now QingTian in a bit of trouble. The Herald won't finish the tower off, obviously. A couple of autos will finish that one, and now with an accelerated shock blast, he defends the tier 2. So a trade of towers. Top Esports getting a minor gold advantage off the back of that. Karsa could be in trouble, though. The Arctic Dash on cooldown, and he has to flash into the pit.
Yeah, nice shuriken from Forge and body block the Arctic Dash. Does force that flash, though, but Karsa is able to get away. Just a little bit of an overstay in that situation. The rest of the team had reset already. Yanja just able to come top and just guarantee that tier 2 is able to stay safe. But Top Esports finding that advantage in gold. I'm looking at JackeyLove, 6,000 gold in his pockets, thanks to the fact that he got that tower 1,500 above Betty. It's a little bit scary with how well this champion scales.
Yeah, it is getting nerve-wracking for the side of Rogue Warriors when we talk about the scaling. 2 kills on JackeyLove, the Leandries, the boots. Oh, it's terrifying. And this Sejuani. I want to talk about the Sejuani Aux. We've not really mentioned the Karsa pick just yet. Obviously, we talked about the melee options in the solo lanes for ganking, but realistically, they're playing this one exceptionally slowly, and it's not surprising because this Sejuani, what it turns into is a pull the trigger engage tool when you need it, when you find the opportunity for a pick. You can do that with the Sejuani, but also just being a huge beefy brick wall that is difficult for Rogue Warriors to break through.
Absolutely, and a great peel option. It kind of makes the front to back very hard because, you know, by all means, Betty isn't the best at killing tanks. Jhin isn't the best tank killer. It's actually something he struggles with because obviously, you know, you want to be able to auto someone, do a massive crit, get them low, and then get that force shot to finish them off. If you're not killing a target in your 4 autos, you're kind of waiting a long time to reload as well. So it's definitely effective in this situation. That's why Rogue Warriors need to be so creative when it comes to those team fights to find success. Taking a look at the items, we do see the Triforce coming in for Knight now, so a pretty big spike in that regard. Gale Force completed for Betty, and again, that one is so important in this game. You definitely need that mobility here, and with that, we see Rogue Warriors starting off the Herald. The TP coming in from Knight. They're looking to contest this.
Yeah, we're gonna have a fight in our hands here, Orcs. And interestingly, that TP, the Triforce coming on through. We've seen shield bows quite regularly on GPs, but this is just going to be top esports saying, look, you can have the Herald. We're just going to take a tower. What's the Herald going to get you? A tower. We've already beaten you to it. Just taking the shortcut on this one because it also opens up a Drake for top esports here in 20 seconds. They have control of the bottom side of the map. Rogue Warriors have to try and do something in the mid lane perhaps, but JackeyLove Ziggs, he can clear the wave. Yeah,
it's very hard to push into this Dragon area because, unsurprisingly, you're going to take Poe for it, but they found QingTian.
Oh, the flash into the Raptor pit, QingTian. He couldn't have messed that one up any more than he did. It's a disaster for him. But hey, at least top esports will get themselves a Drake. That was good positioning from Xiaohao, though. To be fair, like, QingTian, I don't think he was expecting the enemy jungler to be there.
I think that's the big thing is that they kind of left the bot lane just kind of a bit isolated. And then they opted to go for that aggressive play. QingTian, the thought process there was he wanted to flash away from the Jhin W. And I think in the panic of the moment, he's like, if I get hit by this Jhin W, I'm dead. But if you flash and don't go over the wall, you're also dead. So it kind of ended up backfiring a fair bit for him. And you can kind of see that here coming out. So Xiaohao gets just in time into this brush. And then it's here. So the Jhin W comes out and he's like, I have to flash this. And, you know, he thought the safest direction was towards the mid lane tower, but just not close enough to a wall. Probably would have been better if he just saved the splash, but either way, top esports on the back of that able to pick up the dragon. We do see that tier 2 top go down in favor of Rogue Warriors, despite the fact Mega Inferno Bomb was used. And this is one of the frustrations as well. If you're trying to cross map against this team, Cannon Barrage, Mega Inferno Bomb are so good at just eliminating waves. It makes it very difficult to apply that pressure. I mean, you imagine this example here. If the roles were reversed, Rogue Warriors, you know, could just throw a Cannon Barrage down and wipe that whole wave. And that's kind of what top esports have been doing, just limiting the impact of the waves whenever the enemy team's going for a push.
And a pretty underwhelming Herald on the bottom side of the map as well, while Knight and QingTian hammer away on a tier 2 on the top side. Forge will be able to finish that tier 1 off, but that's pretty much all they'll do. As a curtain call comes out on the top side, looks like Rogue Warriors actually want to fight this Yuyanji, getting real low as karsa completely whips the ult, but it's not going to matter. The damage is there. That's one killer bomb in from the side as well, as Betty forced out of the play. Top esports somehow go 2 for 0 there. I'm not quite sure how they pulled that off. Now Forge in the bottom side still will at least trade a tier 2 for the play, but I don't know. I'm not sure this favors Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, top esports are getting a tier 2 themselves and they're getting the gold from the kills. And we kind of saw that Cannon Barrage Mega Inferno Bomb combo. It just makes it impossible for Rogue Warriors to re-engage after the fight has started to split up. Did so much damage, actually killed Chocho with that. It's pretty insane how much they're doing right now. We'll get the replay, so we can see here, ZWuJi, he's hyped. He's looking for the play, but he actually ends up splitting damage quite a bit, kiting in and out. Chokes out multiple members, and this great stopwatch from Yuyanji baits him in. And then we see this re-engage, and watch Betty, and look, Cannon Barrage comes down, Mega Inferno Bomb comes down, Jojo ends up getting chunked out, and the barrel combo just obliterates him. I mean, where did he go?
Yeah, Knight bringing out his magic tricks again, making him disappear. And Betty almost disappears there as well. This is meant to be a late game champion, Aux. He's 18 minutes into the game, and he's doing half of the carries health with his barrels. Who needs crit Gangplank when apparently you can just go Triforce and more and still do insane damage with these barrels? Knight, it feels like, has got ahead of the curve when it comes to the scaling options, and he scaled into the late game way too early, a lot earlier than Rogue Warriors would have liked, and now underneath the tower they go. Ziggs W a little bit early as Xiaohao running distractions. QingTian the one to go down. It was a flash forwards from the Jhin. Xiaohao in trouble. There was karsa in a 1v1 with the enemy jungler. ZDZ to the backline, and he's taken out JackeyLove. Top esports have been rooted as karsa cannot take this fight in the backline. He falls, and Rogue Warriors have made the picks happen.
And that's the approach they needed, the flank play. Oh, Ken Cole gonna come down.
Knight trying to dodge. He's not doing the greatest job of it. Gets hit by every single shot. Fair play to Betty there. But it will clear the wave importantly, so Rogue Warriors cannot take a tower. There's no Drake up. Baron not really on the cards.
Yeah, the saving grace is the fact that Baron still had a bit of time to spawn. Otherwise, I think they would have gone towards that. That being said, Knight still had the cannon barrage in the later end of that fight, so it could have been problematic. But it's just a great engage coming in. The fight started here by Xiaohao to bait them in. They managed to take out QingTian, but we see both the solo lane is coming in on this beautiful flank, and this is what they need to do. We said they need to be creative with their approaches to team fights. They need to find these flank angles, and they were able to do so, and essentially just renders top esports comp null. You know, they don't have the window to find poke because the engage is so quick. They can't kite backwards because there's an Akali and a Gwen behind them. They're able to get those kills quite convincingly and still keep themselves relevant in the game. And that's why I feel like even if the game goes late, even if we get the scaling from, you know, the likes of the Ziggs, from the Gangplank, it's never going to be over for Rogue Warriors, simply because even if you're miles ahead, even if you're like hitting those big item points for top esports, if you get flanked by Akali Gwen, you're probably dead.
Rogue Warriors, they know Drake is coming up in 10 seconds time, and they would love to grab this one for themselves. And the thing about this range composition that we talked about before, Aux, about how it's really difficult to push into top esports, it's also really difficult for top esports to push in. They do have Karsa, though, who's happy to face check forward. ZDZ up on a flank once again. He was spotted on a ward, though, so top esports know exactly where that Gwen will be operating from. Dragging down to 3,000 as Rogue Warriors engage the fight, and I think this is what top esports are actually looking for. Drake goes down. Forge just on the front line, trading with QiuQiu here. Curtain call comes out. QiuQiu is in big trouble. Goes down. Betty with the third shot to finish that one off. And now Xiaohao trying to back up Forge, who's gone a little bit deep. Xiaohao goes in by himself here. It's a bit back and forward here from Rogue Warriors. Not quite as coordinated as we'd like, but they still do get one pick, and they still do get the Drake.
They need to get back on the map quickly, though, because I could see a Baron rush potentially coming out here if they really wanted. I think the ward on it's actually going to maybe ward top esports away, and it looks like they're not really committing. But I think we kind of saw there a better fight for top esports. Even though they lost the dragon, even though they lost the member, you can see how tentative Rogue Warriors were with approaching because they didn't have that backline access. JackeyLove was firing a poke, battle combos were being threatened, and as a result, they just had to kind of disengage. So the initial engage comes out, and obviously a flash from Knight keeps them safe. And in this extended fight, you actually, because the cannon barrage has been used very early because of the Mega Inferno Bomb, you actually get a full channel curtain call, which is going to be rare this game, and they pick off the Nautilus. But even with that man advantage, you know, the barrels are coming out, the Ziggs poke, it's very hard for them to actually move forwards on the back of this. And as a result, Rogue Warriors aren't really able to find any more.
So Rogue Warriors can't quite finish the kills off on this one, but importantly, they have closed the gold gap. And we talked about how it was going to be difficult for Jhin to operate in this game, but so far, the way that Rogue Warriors have been playing these fights has meant that Betty can get these ults off pretty much unhindered. He's 4-0-2 so far in this game, and he's feeling pretty strong, looking towards perhaps an IE as a third item. We'll have to see where that pickaxe and that longsword go. Could be a collector as well, if he just wants some raw upfront damage instead of that crit. We'll have to wait and see where he goes with that one. 8-4 on the scoreboard, 23 minutes on the clock, and top esports are trying to get vision control of the Baron area.
Yeah, and it's so important having good vision control. Can't highlight that enough for both sides, honestly. It's creating the flank opportunities for Rogue Warriors. It's denying the vision for the enemy team so you're not as vulnerable to poke. But for top esports, any ward, any single ward behind you is a threat. When there's double TP on this Akali and this Gwen, we saw it early in the game.
Yep.
You miss a single ward placed in your jungle, that's the potential for Rogue Warriors to flank you and win the fight. So you have to be super diligent when you're looking for flanks. We can see this ward just there over the wall from the river brush there. That one's potentially a threat. We can see Xiaohao and QiuQiu very deep warding here in the jungle, presenting these options. And now top esports contest the priority. They move forwards into the river, but those flank shot options are set up and enabled. QiuQiu alone here, playing with fire, but you know, if the opportunity arises, he does have Forge backing him up.
I think he's been spotted now. I'm pretty sure Karsa saw him, but he's on tonight already. The oranges come out. JackeyLove's in trouble and taken out by ZDZ. QiuQiu underneath the tower, but ZDZ still basically full HP. QiuQiu trying to dodge shots, but he can't do it. And Betty, the sniper, takes yet another one with his ulti. And now into the pit go Rogue Warriors. and Aux, they're actually taking over the game. Are they actually going to do it?
We'll have to see if Top Esports can contest. Karsa's low, but could try and find a steal here. They need to take him out of the fight. Forge is looking. Won't take much to take out this Sejuani at this point. I think they should just have the Baron.
Yep, Karsa has to back away. They can't contest it. 10-4 on the scoreboard. A 3,000 gold lead almost. And a Baron now for Rogue Warriors. They already have 2 Drakes as well, and the next one's up in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a great spot. You know, we have Betty hyper-fed on this Jhin right now, and it just feels like Top Esports are suffering from the same issue Rogue Warriors had in Game 1. They can't keep their backline safe. The ult comes in from over the wall. It slows down JackeyLove, allows the easy follow-up, and he just has no way of surviving when they collapse onto him. And you can see it's difficult for Rogue Warriors to continue from this point because of the cannon barrage, because of the minefield. But it doesn't matter. They're able to get the snipe from Betty to clean up another kill. And with JackeyLove down, with the cannon barrage down, they're a lot more free to go for that Baron play. And ultimately, I look at this game and I have to say, QingTian on the Jayce, not really being a factor. And again, this champion is hyper snowbally. The difference between him when he's ahead and him when he's behind is absolutely massive. It just kind of feels like Top Esports, they can't really keep the backline safe. QingTian is not doing that much for them. Starting to look really rough, and this could be Rogue Warriors answering back in this game if things keep going at this rate.
Scaling feels like it's not really coming into the conversation at this point. 15 secs on the Drake. And that's going to be pretty much uncontested, I think. Rogue Warriors should be able to get this one. And guess what? They already got the Baron. So they don't even need to worry about Top Esports answering elsewhere. There really isn't much Top Esports can do about this one. As JackeyLove TPs to the mid lane here to just try and help out with the wave clear. These Baron minions remove a lot of the value of the Ziggs pick in the first place. As Forge, how much time this game, Aux, has Forge spent totally alone in the bottom lane just taking towers? We saw it earlier on in the game as he took the tier 2. Now he's able to take an inhib tower completely unhindered. And Knight has to move over just to clear the waves and protect the inhib itself. ZDZ on the top side. As JackeyLove and Karsa pretending they're not here, they would love to get on Betty. He does have his cleanse available. Karsa has flash, has ult. He's going to go in, and he whiffs it. Karsa had to make the attempt happen, but it doesn't work out.
And I think this shows kind of how desperate Rogue Warriors are right now. They're fishing for these plays with, honestly, a low chance of success. Even if you hit the ult there, there's a cleanse available to the Jhin. There's flash available. His team are there in support. They wouldn't kill him. It's never going to happen unless Betty takes his hands off his keyboard. But they have to look for these plays because they're in a pretty dire spot. Their wave clear tools are struggling to deal with these Baron minions. And essentially it's taking, you know, most of their team grouped up mid just to defend the tower.
But that's the interaction we talked about. The cannon barrage coming in as well. Oh, that was a little dicey for Betty. That's what we've been talking about, right? When he goes for the ult like that, and ults are available for Top Esports, they're not pressured, you can't just get away with that. And Betty's just discovered that firsthand. Now we're root underneath the tower. I don't think they can go for a dive right now, though.
Trying to fish for ZDZ. Betty trying to lifesteal up. But yeah, that's a lesson he won't soon forget on the back of that one. Kind of does negate the play coming out from the side of Rogue Warriors, and the Baron has timed out. So Top Esports, they managed to actually keep the tier 1 mid alive. I think that gives credit to how insane the wave clear of Ziggs and Gangplank is. They obviously did lose that inhibitor tower, but still very much maintaining a bit of map control with that mid tier 1. And we do have Baron in 2 minutes and a half. I feel like that's kind of going to be the play point. Although for Rogue Warriors, the ideal scenario is you just stall the game. Don't look towards the Baron. Wait until the Dragon is on the cards. And that's when things are problematic for Top Esports because, you know, their poke tools become a lot less threatening when there's that mountain shield on the other side. And on top of that, if the mountain soul is on the cards, it's like it becomes much harder to decide between objectives. Because if you give it the Dragon, enemy team has mountain soul. If you give it the Baron, enemy team has Baron. And, you know, Top Esports don't really get a good trade out of either of those.
Yeah, it feels like Top Esports are being pushed into a difficult position here. I want to revisit items. We were talking earlier about the Gangplank spiking a little bit early with the build that he's gone for. Well, Knight is now on 3.5 items here, getting close to finishing his 4th. But Betty is in a similar position, right? Went for the Serpent Spike as that 3rd lethality item. JackeyLove getting some good poke out here. But Forge, 3 items. You've got the 2 core items and 3 for ZDZ as well. Xiaohao on the 2 that I was mentioning. Well, we do have 3 for JackeyLove. It feels like across the board. I'm just listing items here. But across the board, we are hitting 2 and 3 item spikes. We're seeing these carries come online. The conversations of scaling really now come into play. The difference is that gold lead for Rogue Warriors and the control of the map right now. They're trying to pressure in the mid lane, but struggling to do much. There's a route coming through. ZDZ, the target from Karsa's ult, but with the Zhonyas, they can't do much.
Yeah, and a lot of tools honestly used by top esports. It's actually the correct timing for this. Karsa's ult and JackeyLove's will be back up before the dragon fight. So, you know, if you're going to pick a window to use that, potentially look for a pick, that's the window. But unfortunately, you know, from ZDZ, his Zhonyas will also be available within that time window. So you're not really winning too many advantage on the back of that. It was just kind of looking for the play, potentially seeing you can find something. And now, top esports, 30 seconds on the Baron, but it's a minute 15 on that Dragon. And this is where things get very delicate. A misplay here could cost you massively and potentially put the game into the point where it's very hard to come back on. Do you see the Serelda's Grudge picked up by Knight? His barrels are doing a huge amount of damage if he can connect them. And I think that's the critical thing. It's been in these, you know, scattered fights where you're being flanked and such, it's been kind of hard for him to find those barrel combos. But if he does land one onto a critical target, it's going to do damage.
Now I want to remind everyone, before this fateful fight kicks off, that Rogue Warriors in Spring, the last time these two teams met, beat Top Esports 2-1. It's still perfectly possible for that same result to show its head today if Rogue Warriors can win 2 games on the trot here. They're in pole position to take this one. But it's Top Esports controlling the mid lane right now. Look at the solo laners from Rogue Warriors, pressuring both sides of the map as ZDZ in the bot side jungle and Forge threatening yet another inhib tower. Knight moving on over though, does not want to use the ulti. It's going to try and get over on foot. Forge is really committing. We could have a 1v1 on that top side if Forge isn't careful here. We'll back away with his Razor Shuriken there. Now Rogue Warriors starting the Drake off. This is a Mountain Soul if Rogue Warriors can take it.
And they need to reapproach quickly and try and get in on this.
Yeah, and just stepping forward, he's going to be the front line. There's a hook, gets onto the support, but immediately JackeyLove is just eradicated. And look at Betty just free-firing his ult once again. CDZ in the middle of the fray. It's going to be 1-for-1. Knight still going strong as he's finally taken out. Karsa gets in against the Drake. How does he get away with it every time? Stops the soul being taken, but 4 people die from Top Esports. Rogue Warriors, they don't need the Dragon Soul if they can just end the game. They did it in Spring, and now they take a game here against Top Esports. It's going to be 1 apiece on the scoreboard, and Rogue Warriors desperately try to keep this hype train alive.
A well-deserved game as well. I mean, Top Esports were forced into a really uncomfortable position. They had to contest the Dragon. It left their top lane vulnerable, left their bot lane vulnerable. And then in the fight, JackeyLove again cannot find the space to position against this team composition of Rogue Warriors. They get on top of him. They take him out almost instantly. The Gwen and the Akali just too difficult to deal with. And off the back of that, able to end the win and able to end the game and tie the series up. I was saying after game 1, this was kind of like best case scenario for Rogue Warriors, and they still lost. But they managed to bounce back. We talked about how they need to be creative with their approaches to team fights. They were. They kept finding these great angles, and it felt like the Ziggs, this pick we've seen so much priority on, was a little bit useless in honesty in that game. He just couldn't find the space to survive.
Yeah, Ziggs getting caught out in that last fight as well. JackeyLove going down, and let's be honest, it's not the first time that we've said the sentence, JackeyLove going down is what loses Top Esports the game. A rough one here for Top Esports. We talked about the scaling. We talked about what could happen in theory in a vacuum. It never felt like that poke ever came out, though. Never felt like Top Esports were in the position where you've just got shock blasts and zig bombs and barrels from Gangplank consistently hitting. Every time they got close to Rogue Warriors would start the fight and threaten that back line.
Yeah, and I think as well, a big thing was QingTian on the Jayce. Not a fan. Wasn't really able to get the ball rolling. Got solo killed again. And just kind of felt like a non-factor in this game, in all honesty. Knight and JackeyLove did a fair bit of damage, but it kind of felt like, you know, Rogue Warriors went in the team fights like, okay, let's kill the Ziggs. Ziggs is dead. Let's kill the Gangplank. Gangplank's dead. Fight's basically over. That felt like the consistent theme. And it was just very difficult for Top Esports to create that space to keep them alive. And as you said, JackeyLove unable to position clearly. I have to give credit to Betty, though, on this Jhin. There was some concerns about this pick into, like, you know, the cannon barrage into the Mega Infinity Bomb. We even saw it for a moment in that game. But for the most part, delivering massively and finding great angles, great long-range snipes to find success in this game.
And ultimately, it's a little scary for Top Esports because when you think about last year, some of the comps that they succeeded the most on were these full-ranged compositions where you'd see 369 on things like the Jayce, you'd see the Zoe coming out from Night, you'd see like the Ezreal, the Jhin, and these kind of picks coming out for JackeyLove. This emulates a very similar style of composition and struggling to execute it in the same way. Does feel like Top Esports have some problems that they do need to resolve by the time we get to playoffs, or they are going to be in big trouble because this is Rogue Warriors they're against. You can't really You can't really afford to be losing these games to Rogue Warriors when you're going to have to face teams like FPX, teams like EDG when it comes to playoffs. If you can even make it that far into playoffs. There's a lot of question marks around Top Esports right now, but they've still got that mojo. We've still got another game of the series. Let's see what can happen right now.